Well, let's stay with this story. In fact, continue the SABC's coverage of the ANC's National General Council. The party's President Cyril Ramaphosa, also speaking today, has urged members to save the party from disintegrating. Ramaphosa spoke at the 5th ANC National General Council that's underway in Boksburg on Gauteng's East Rand in the morning. The NGC is a midterm platform to basically take stock of the implementation of resolutions, adopted at the 2022 National Conference. Ramaphosa says they want to get rid the party of factionalism before its 120-year celebration. SABC News anchor Thulasizwe Simelane tracking all the developments at the ANC NGC. Thulas joining us live now from Boksburg. And Thulasizwe, much of the same, it would appear, in terms of renewal, the way forward for the ANC to cleanse itself of the bad elements. But you wonder if the party is truly at a point for change.
Good evening, Tembekile and Bongiwe. It's day one of the National General Council of the ANC, and it's been intense work with speeches being delivered initially by the President of the ANC, delivering the political overview, followed by messages of support from various they call them fraternal organizations, sister organizations, like-minded organizations delivering their messages of support. And then we got to almost the business end of day one, which is the midterm report that has just been delivered by the ANC Secretary General, Fikile Mbalula. And my goodness, what a long speech it turned out to be. The speech itself, if you think the speech was lengthy, you should see the full report because it runs to about 294 pages. It covers everything. It is a 360-degree view of the ANC, going in depth, looking at the ANC from a branch level, taking stock of all 9 provinces, all of them reporting about what's their state of membership, what have they been doing around issues of by-elections, how are they preparing for 2026 elections, what's the state of going to regional and even branch conferences that are elective in nature, all the way to talking about organizational renewal, the taking stock of the resolutions from the conference in 2022, strengthening such structures as the Integrity Commission of the ANC. So it really is wide-ranging, and I don't think it will be possible to cover everything, but we'll give it a good try. I am joined by Kolelwa Kashe Katia from Indlulamiti Scenarios, South Africa. Good evening. We've just been sitting here, you and I, listening, and it just was a lengthy speech, as I say. And I say it's quite complex what he was trying to achieve. Fikile Mbalula. The report is available for the delegates to digest and then, negotiate and discuss when they go into those commissions. But what are the key points that stood out for you?
Good evening, and thank you for having me. Yes, there's a lot of things that were covered by the reports, both by the President and also the SG. However, what stands out for me is the issue of renewal, because it's been an ongoing conversation within the ANC. And if you look at different conferences in the past, there's been attempts at addressing this issue of renewal. However, what you find is that there doesn't seem to be commitment to doing the difficult work of renewing the ANC, because the ANC has a lot of work, of that internal or inward-looking work that has to be done. But certainly there has to be a demonstration of, the importance of, for example, the step-aside principle. What happens with the Integrity Commission, he reflected on that. But when you look at even the numbers of, the number of engagements that Integrity Commission has had, but with very little outcomes. And if you were to look at members of the ANC that have been mentioned in various commissions, whether it was, the Zondo Commission, there's absolutely no consequences. Even now, recently, we're seeing that same thing happen. So before the ANC can even wrap its head around renewal, there has to be that inward looking phase. That's very difficult work.
In fact, that Integrity Commission work that you mentioned does feature in the midterm report.
Yes,
and you see the names being reported specifically of people who have gone through that process. And the name of Senzo Mchunu, right there at the top, because it's quite recent. Nosiviwe Mapisa Ngakula, Zizi Godwa, Tabang Makwetla, and others, but also they're mentioning that all those who were mentioned in the state capture report were taken through that process, and now where it needs to go to the disciplinary processes. That's where issues are in terms of taking forward to say, not only do you have to account for what you are accused of, but if you fail to do that, we'll discipline you. That's the work that seems to me to be a bit slower.
It is a bit slow because the ANC is unable to do that kind of difficult work. And it can be linked to the factions that prevail within the ANC. So you find that it's very difficult to hold each other accountable within. And as a result, it impacts on perceptions by broader society. And it weakens the ANC's position as a leader of society. And we have seen the outcome of that, the result of that with the 2024 election that he has also referred to, even though he speaks of it as a setback, but it was a loss where we saw the ANC moving to below 50%, which is something that should be taken very seriously without sugarcoating it and calling it a setback.
In fact, they're calling it a strategic setback for the National Democratic Revolution. And I throw that in there because that is the concept that is peppered in much of the communication, the base document, and in fact, if you read the report that has just been delivered by Fikile Mbalula, it will be interesting to do a word search and see how many times it features. But it features more prominently than it previously did. Why is that? I mean, I was saying earlier on, and apologies, I was saying earlier on that in past conferences of this nature, you would have needed to really read the document. I'm not saying it wasn't there, NDR, National Democratic Revolution, National Democratic Society, the Freedom Charter, but it wasn't as much as it's featuring now. Why?
I mean, this is something that has always been there. It's always been part of the ANC project that was born out of this alliance with the Communist Party, the South African Communist Party. And it speaks to the revolution and the struggle against colonialism, imperialism, and it was born out of the idea that even when we get past the 1994 moment where we had the first democratic election, that the struggle will continue. And I think right now it's actually very convenient for the ANC to start mobilizing that narrative. We're heading for an election and society is very angry. They are going to be facing an angry electorate. They were not expecting that in 2024, but now they're becoming more aware. And the sentiment that's out there, there is that revolutionary spirit where there's a potential unled revolution that could, emerge in South Africa. So the way I see it is the ANC trying to now recapture that leadership of that democratic revolution of our society, wherein there's a continued struggle against apartheid, against colonialism, imperialism, and so on. But it might be a bit too late because it was abandoned for some years, as you were saying. We're not hearing much of it. So right now, it could be convenient to attract certain sections of our society back into the fold.
Let's say a bit more about it because it seems to me to be the central theme, at least for this NGC. If you take away the rhetoric and the language choice, the revolutionary language choice, at the heart of it, what is this National Democratic Revolution that has to do with what the ANC calls colonialism of a special type and how it manifests across race, gender, and class? But what is it?
I mean, they also acknowledge that it's very complex because not only is it informed by this struggle against the inequalities that we face at national level, but now I think it's important because they realize that there's a global shift, especially this right-wing shift that is emerging. You go to Europe, you go elsewhere in the world, there seems to be this right-wing movement that is coming up again. We're seeing elements of that within the country as well. And I think that's why they're also now linking it to the renewal, that the ANC has to then shift its thinking. They have to evolve so that they can also be ready for this evolving society.
Yeah.
Because our society has definitely evolved and maybe past the ANC in terms of their thinking about revolution, about this struggle against this global hegemony of capitalism and so on. So now it's a way to position themselves. And I don't know if they're fully capable of doing that right now,
Yeah.
because it seems like there's others, you know, who have now positioned themselves as now the leaders of those kinds of struggles.
Let's talk political performance. So we learn from the midterm report about the numbers of the ANC, right? Excuse me. Talking about members in good standing being at about 543,000. It looks like a gloomy picture, but remember the membership system has changed somewhat. You have members on probation. You have members in good standing. That's the number we are talking about, 543,000. Then you have members who are members but are not in good standing in that their membership has lapsed. They've just not gone to renew it. Take that and link it to the electoral performance and energizing the electorate. They're talking about trying to get new voters, about 4 million new voters ahead of next year. Doable, given everything that we've heard today and how they're framing themselves in this context?
I think it's very unlikely when it comes to new voters, because already we've seen, like just based off the previous election, and if you were to look at the previous local government election, you could see the signs that they were already there, that they were heading for that loss. So it's highly unlikely, and this is based off what they are doing internally. And part of the challenge of them losing credibility was this mission to recruit new members, 1 million. And I remember during the Mbeki days when there was this debate about, is it better but fewer?
Yes.
Because then you allow all sorts of, you know, nefarious characters to come in. And I think that's what has impacted on the ANC negatively in the past, where it became this broad church, where it also attracted some undesirable elements. And now they have to reckon with that, because those now have become internal elements that impact on its standing in broader society.
All right, Kolelo, let's leave it there for now. We are here for the next few days. It's the first of many conversations that I think you and I will have, reflecting on the National General Council of the ANC. As I say, plenty to digest and go through. That midterm report took some time to deliver. In fact, at some point, there were grumblings there, Bongiwe and Thembekile. There were grumblings inside the hall where people, I think I heard Fikile Mbalula asking the delegates, do you want a break? So they've now gotten their break, and I do believe that they are streaming out of the main plenary hall.